はい、皆さんこんにちは。友内藤のデジタルエコノミーチャンネルです。今日はですね、アフリカ、ウガンダ、東アフリカのウガンダ大国ですね、のアフリカ農業のデジタル化の起業家、今アフリカ中が注目している起業家の一人です。ダニエル・ニシーマさんと、独占インタビューができましたので、ぜひご覧になっていただければと思います。このチャンネルではですね、大学生、大学院生、それから社会人の方で、国際開発、それから社会企業、特に開発途上国におけるデジタルエコノミーに関してご関心のある方、ご興味のある方に対して、私は世界中のいろいろな情報ソースからよりすぐってですね、厳選された皆様にお役に立つと思う情報をですね、お届けするチャンネルでございます。初めてこのチャンネルをご覧になる方、私はですね、神戸にあります神戸情報大学院大学というですね、大学院の教員をしております。よろしかったら私のプロフィールはですね、概要欄の方に貼り付けてありますので、ご一読いただければと思います。はい、先ほど申し上げた通り、今日はですね、東アフリカの大国ウガンダでデジタル農業に果敢に取り組んでいる、もう10年近くですね、取り組んでいらっしゃって、今、アフリカの中でもですね、最も注目される起業家の一人、ダニエル・ニンシーマさんとオンラインでですね、独占インタビューができましたので、その状況についてこのチャンネルで共有させていただきたいと思います。アフリカのデジタル農業、今までこのチャンネルでもですね、何回か取り上げてきています。2回前にはですね、日本人でアフリカのデジタル農業に取り組んでいらっしゃる日本植物燃料の合田社長にもご登壇いただきましたけれども、いろいろ現地の起業家、それから日本の起業家、もちろん立場が違って見るところも違えばチャレンジしているところも違う。今日はウガンダの現地でもう10年近く前からこのデジタル農業に対して果敢に取り組み、そして今成功が始まり、これからどんどん大きくなっていくというですね、ダニエル・ニシマさん、実はこのチャンネルの最初の方でですね、アフリカ農業に取り上げた時にも M-Omulimisa という非常に画期的なスーパーアプリがあるというふうにご紹介したんですが、この M-Omulimisaを作ったのがダニエルさん、そして M-Omulimisaを今 CEO としてやってらっしゃるのがダニエルさんなんですね。じゃあ M-Omulimisaどれほどすごいのか、もしくはアフリカウガンダが今どういう状況なのか、ダニエルさんにお聞きしましたので、ぜひご覧になっていただければと思います。Good evening or good afternoon from Kobe, Japan. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. It's good morning from Uganda. It's 10 a.m. and today is our.
What time is it now in Uganda? You came here, then you spent about 3 months, right? For the group training together with other the colleagues coming from the several countries in the region. Then that was the very specific training, group training, which is for ICT for development. Then, if my understanding is correct, you come up with the idea, or you already have an idea about your current business, which is M-Omulimisa. Is it correct?
Well, I had the idea of M-Omulimisa. I had started basically working on something before I came to Japan. But when I actually came to Japan and went through the classes and the thank you practice mainly, that basically helps you to, be able to develop your idea, understand the problem, develop ideas and everything. I would say basically that expedited my resolve and my ambition basically to be able to start M-Omulimisa. Because, when you go there, you share your ideas with people that you find there, you have these experienced professors. So that sort of basically expedited my desire to start up M-Omulimisa quickly. I had, of course, the idea before, as I mentioned, but when I came there and shared it with the people that I met there, and of course, the encouragement and of course, the self-discovery process that we went through because of the classes we had and these discussions we had with professors and the different people that I met there, that really expedited my desire to be able to start up M-Omulimisa. Perhaps if I hadn't come to Kobe, maybe I would not even maybe have started M-Omulimisa at all. There are so many people that I think have ideas that really never turn out into anything. But I would say that my time there expedited basically and my desire to be able to start up M-Omulimisa quickly.
So before you come to Japan, you're working for Makerere University as a research assistant. Then you were involved in the ICT and agriculture. Then come to KIC. Then after you left Japan, you went back to Makerere. Then how many months or how many years you continue Makerere University?
I think after that, after Japan, I spent about another year with the university. Then I went to the US for a fellowship. I started doing it in a lot of things because right after my time in Japan, I was actually contracted as a consultant with a Canadian non-profit organization.
All right.
So I basically started doing work. I did fellowships in the US. I did some, fellowships in Sweden as well. Wow. So then I started basically doing, So I was more involved into doing ICT work across Africa as a consultant after that. A year maybe after that. Yeah.
Then you started business so-called M-Omulimisa in 2015 or something?
Around 2015 there, because that's when the idea of M-Omulimisa actually started taking shape. Because when I came, from Kobe, basically, with the ideas and of course the experience that I got there, when I got back here and I started basically, thinking about starting my own organization. I wanted to leverage first of all my connections in Kobe to be able to, with the expertise there, to be able to link with them and see how basically they could help into, starting up this organization. So that is how, that actually started coming to play. So we started around 2015. Then right about that time, I went to the US for my master's, degree. Yeah, so then I also developed the idea further, but it all basically began with the KIC, with all the experience, and so I wanted to basically leverage those partnerships and those, interactions, collaboration that actually, made there. Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
So just a curiosity, is M-Omulimisa one of your long listed business ideas, or you are only sticking with one idea, which is M-Omulimisa since long time ago? Which one?
M-Omulimisa is basically my main, business idea. I'm sticking to that. Of course, I also do other personal things, consultants work basically.
Yep.
But M-Omulimisa is the main basically idea, and I want to develop that further. So I want to stick to one thing and develop it into a strong basically brand. And then, so we are still in building things. We're still building systems and structures and all of that. And that is actually why, this relationship with guys is very important for me, because with the experience that you have, I would want to leverage that further so that we can be able to develop M-Omulimisa further together.
Is there any reason you come up with the company name M-Omulimisa? Actually, what does it mean?
Yes, that's a good one. So Omulimisa is, as a word, is a Luganda. Luganda is one of the local languages spoken in Uganda. So Omulimisa in that language means extension officer.
Extension officer.
Yes. So an extension officer is basically a person employed by the government to provide technical expertise in agriculture to farmers. So Omulimisa is extension officer. And the word M, so the M stands for mobile. So it is mobile extension officer.
I see. So very straightforward.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, for us, M-Omulimisa is really innovative name, but maybe 99.9% Japanese cannot understand what is M-Omulimisa. But
I know.
On the contrary, 99% of Ugandan can understand what is M-Omulimisa very easily.
Yes.
I see.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So actually, if as the company name says, your business idea, which is M-Omulimisa, is actually directly meaning for the extension worker who are dealing with the agricultural extension can be transformed by using the mobile technology.
Absolutely, yes.
I see. So that is the idea you have been actually continuously holding since even before you come to Japan.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the very important part. Let me just ask you several questions about that kind of, how you begin with that kind of idea. So do you have any actually a sort of starting point or the tipping point you come up with this idea?
So first of all, I was born on a small farm in central Uganda, just like many basically people across Uganda. We are our economy is actually largely based on agriculture. Majority of basically Ugandans are employed in the agricultural sector. Many of them are small scale farmers basically. So growing up on my father's farm, I experienced basically the challenges of African agriculture firsthand. So based on that experience and with my education in technology, information technology, I really wanted to use my education, my skills that I acquired after my university to be able to do something about the challenges of African agriculture by trying to see actually how I can use technology to solve some of these existing challenges. So my motivation really came from that, because I was born and bred on a farm in Uganda. I'm a farmer myself. I grew up, on a farm growing crops and raising animals as well. So many of the challenges basically that my father faced and I faced growing up on my father's farm were personal to me. So I wanted to actually use my skills and education to be able to do something about it, to give back to my society as well. So the motivation basically for setting up M-Omulimisa came from there.
I see. But Daniel, actually, ordinary people cannot easily imagine how mobile technology can be, utilized in Omulimisa, which is an extension worker or extension agent. So how, more specifically, can you come up with that kind of, transformation? How mobile technology can be utilized for Omulimisa extension worker? How did you actually notice that kind of chemistry?
Well, majority of the people across Uganda own very simple phones. They may not actually have smartphones, but they have very simple, what we call feature phones.
Yep.
A phone that can actually send a text message, a phone that can make a call. So even if they don't actually own smartphones, they can actually be able to use their simple phone to do something basically. And M-Omulimisa basically does that. We provide the possibility for a farmer to use their simple phone to ask for information in their own local languages. We use the system through a network of what you call agents, basically in these villages, to help farmers get improved seed, get fertilizer, get information on weather, on markets, and even be able to get small loans for them to access improved inputs. So even a farmer without a phone can actually be able to helped by M-Omulimisa through our agent in that village. But a farmer that majority of our farmers, like I mentioned, have these simple phones. So even with a simple phone, a farmer can actually be able to get information in their own language on how, for example, to plant maize, on how the correct spacing for maize planting, on how to on what chemical to use to spray for a certain pest or disease. So they don't really need to be well educated or anything basically to be able to use our platform. So it was easy basically for me to see the benefit of using technology to help our farmers, because we have issues, of course, our extension system. There are so many farmers, of course, as I mentioned, majority of our communities, of course, are farming communities, but there are very few extension officers to be able to serve them. So there was actually easy for me to see a connection of between technology and basically helping our farmers, because as I mentioned, you could see technology in everyday life basically.
As one of the African countries lovers, stay in Japan, on the other hand, I simply wonder, you may be facing every day sort of the gap between your ideal, the business model and the reality on the ground. So do you have any, sort of stories about that kind of gap you are facing every day? You are saying that mobile technology, even in the actually suburb area in your country, people mainly have feature phone. Then people can text. However, actually, even if you can explain, or your staff can explain how M-Omulimisa is a very nice, the system or very nice services, but maybe people cannot understand sometimes, or people cannot utilize effectively or efficiently your service in a short term. So I just curious, or I just simply wonder how you are overcoming that kind of challenges happening every day?
Yes, there are quite basically a number of challenges that limit basically our expansion and increased usage among farming communities. One of them, of course, is the issues of digital literacy. Not just literacy, but digital literacy, basically. You meet farmers that may not even know how to use a simple phone to actually text. Majority of our farmers actually, use the phone for calling. 99% of the times, they only use it basically to call. So texting is a challenge. So digital literacy is basically a big problem to many of these, technology-based basically startups in Africa and the developing world at large. So one of the things, of course, we're doing is through these agents in the villages is to, first of all, conduct basically training on digital literacy. Simple things. How do you basically text? You do this, go here, do this and that. So actually doing a lot of work in terms of training farmers on how to actually use their phones to do much more than just calling and receiving phone calls. So that's one of the things that we're actually doing, to train basically farmers on how to use actually their phones to do more things, more things than, apart from just making and receiving phone calls. So digital literacy is one of the biggest challenges. And the way how basically we're tackling that is that using our agents in these villages is actually to train farmers in their own local languages on actually how to use these phones to actually be able to access our services. The other thing, of course, is also illiteracy. Basically, not being able to read and write is also a challenge. Yes, about 70% of basically people in Uganda can read and write in their own local languages. But of course, there's also a certain number, especially women, that don't actually know how to read and write. So one of the things, of course, we're also doing is that we've actually introduced a way that where a farmer can actually be able to also use their phones to access our services on using calling instead of basically having to type. So that has helped a lot to basically transcend the issues of illiteracy, because now basically a farmer can be able to interact with our system through a phone call instead of basically having to type and ask for questions. So that we've also been able to overcome that. You've also been able to leverage basically partnerships with organizations that have established structures. They have been working with these communities for a long time. So because as a startup, basically it takes you money and time to be able to build the trust in the communities and the structures, of course. So one of the things, of course, we've been doing is leverage these existing organizations to be able to build our our operations based on their structures as well. That's actually how we got in touch with Sasakao, for example, in Uganda, to be able to basically leverage on their structures to push basically our services out to the farmers they work with. So those are some of the gaps, and that is one of the ways that we've been able to overcome them.
All right, thanks very much. So the digital literacy, of course, yes, that is the one of the very, very big sort of the things to overcome, not only in your country, all over the world. Then actually, to me, that is, of course, I really share your thought then, but to me, it looks like, the time-consuming work, which is really take long time, not only days, but also years to overcome, to reach to your ideal situation. But do you think that, or are you feeling that kind of journey is in progress as you planned?
Absolutely. I mean, we are not where we were, for example, 3-4 years ago, definitely. And actually, the coming, the emergence of COVID-19 has also actually helped matters a little bit in a way, because now the farmers have started to appreciate, because with all the restrictions in movement and everything, you've actually seen more farmers now appreciating the use of technology. Because now there was a time where we could not even move from one place to another. There's a time when we were under total lockdown. You could not even move outside your house. And of course, that affected physical services. So farmers actually have now started to appreciate the use of technology in their daily lives because of the issues that have come into play because of COVID-19 and a number of basically other issues. So really, I mean, the journey is progressing, and I'm very sure that in the next 3 or 5 or 10 years, we'll actually be better than we are today.
Oh, that's very good to hear, and actually, I really respect your effort, and that is very good to hear. So even the situation under COVID-19, the mobile technology or ICT technology is permeating into the people in your country very rapidly
Yes.
to overcome that kind of obstacles.
Yes.
That's very good thing. Then for yourself, I mean, for your company itself, M-Omulimisa, maybe you have been facing with a lot of difficulties, like, the fundraising or the staffing or the technology development, everything. As you are the founder of the M-Omulimisa, you are facing the management, difficulties every day, I believe. But what is the most important or the most biggest difficulties since the founding of your company so far?
One of the biggest issues really is getting the right talent on board in terms of basically human resource. Yes, getting the right people on board. Because the most, of course, you would want to have the best team basically on board. But that basically comes with money as well. And basically you want people with experience, you want programmers, you want developers, but the best people basically have to be paid quite well. And of course, as a startup, you don't have basically the resources around, so you don't basically have the right team on board. So that's one of our biggest challenges. You of course, I mean, if you want to deliver a good product, you need a very good team. But because of you don't have enough resources basically to be able to hire, so you basically fall short because of that. So that's one of the biggest really issues. And basically now I would want to leverage now my connections in Kobe basically to see that, because you guys basically have the right talent really. I had wanted to see how we could leverage basically these connections, and maybe there could be students in the computer science programs at Kobe or something that we could work with, and so that because you have expertise. So that's one of the things basically going forward that we want to explore. There, for example, are people within maybe Kobe in the computer science class or something that could work with our team basically so that we can be able to develop products faster, because you guys have the talent basically. So that's one of the things I would want to explore. And it's a big problem here. Yes, you want this person, but you cannot afford them. So it's a challenge here. And of course, the other, of course, is as a startup, you need to develop operations and expand basically. So that, you're also affected by that, because you don't have perhaps enough resources to be able to expand quickly as you would wish, for example. But those are challenges, of course, that startups face. And of course, being, in this part of Africa, unlike, for example, an American startup, they would start up quickly and raise enough resources. Maybe someone based in Japan or the developed basically world. I've seen startups that have founders based in the West, maybe Japan or Europe, or raising enough capital within a few months. But as a person that is based in Africa, raising capital is not a joke. So it's one of the biggest challenges as well, because much of the capital really doesn't flow this way. So that's another challenge. So human resource, getting the right people on board, and of course the resources to be able to expand the operations is also another one. But as an entrepreneur, these are challenges that you appreciate, and you have to find ways of overcoming them. So we've been surviving. Of course, we've had people on board, but we still need, of course, recruit more talent. We still need to expand our operations, of course, and we'll be getting there slowly by slowly.
In your country, Uganda, how is the situational status of the ICT startup business? Is it getting bigger, better, and wealthier? Is it? As a whole.
Yes, it is quite a tough one, of course. But I see actually a lot of startups coming up, but they also face the same challenges, of course, as I mentioned. But it is getting better and better in every single day, basically. We see better policies coming into play. We see being appreciated, of course, by the people that we actually serve. So things are getting better and better. And I believe that I'm very hopeful that, of course, things will be getting better and better basically every single day. So I'm very hopeful, and I believe that we'll be getting better, of course, as a country going forward. And of course, with such efforts, because we see now the international community and the development partners also getting more interested in basically using ICTs to support basically African countries. So things are getting better, and definitely, and I'm very hopeful, for the future.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Manis. Then, your company M-Omulimisa is having a very, actually keeping a very unique position in your country, in your market. I'm not sure whether or not you have the competitor in your market, but how do you forecast your business expansion? Is it going to be sort of larger, bigger year by year, or is it a little bit stable, those kinds? How do you think?
Well, as I mentioned, the Ugandan market alone, we have over 3 million farmers across Uganda. And combined with all the other startups, we are not even competitors yet. We only serve a fraction of the Ugandan farming population. So I would not basically call ourselves competitors because we have not yet even served a quarter of the potential market. So we still have a huge potential basically to expand. So right. I would not really call ourselves competitors, really, no, because we just serving a small fraction of the potential market. And definitely, I mean, we are expanding, we are getting better and better every now and then. So I actually see myself, growing better and better every single day. So I believe that our numbers are going to get better with, of course, more partnerships. Because, one thing, of course, I've realized is that partnerships are very crucial, especially for, a startup like ours, for example. You need people like, KIC, you need people like Sasaka, for example. You need other people that have been there. So that's very important for me. And I think the more partnerships we get on board, the better basically we become. So I see ourselves basically getting bigger every single year. Definitely. There's no doubt about that.
All right. Thanks very much. So in coming years, like next years or 3 years later or 5 years later even, do you have any specific target numbers of users or whatever? Do you have any kind of such target?
Yeah, our target basically is, for the next 4 years at least to serve, 50,000 farmers. So that is basically a target that, we're setting for the next, 3 years, and of course, expanding our team. We just opened up a field office in Lera, which is in the northern part of Uganda. So we want to basically be able to open up more locations in more places. Basically, our field office means that we have our field operations team there. So we have field officers that are working with these village agents. We want to recruit basically at least 1,000 village agents in the next 3-4 years. So that's one of the things basically targeting, being able to open up in more geographic locations, but also basically, getting a better team at the national office, basically, especially our development team, as well. And of course, getting basically more resources into this to support operations.
Right. And are you going to expand your business to neighboring countries or even the outside of the region?
Yes, we actually already doing some work in Zambia with the Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries. We're doing some work in Kenya with some local non-profit organization. We're doing some work in Tanzania as well. So we're doing a number of things basically, and they are supported by different basically partners. But our biggest operation is in Uganda, because in the countries that I mentioned, we're only doing mobile-based extension services. Yet in Uganda, we're doing much more than that. We're doing mobile extension services. We're doing weather and market information. We're doing input micro loans for small-scale farmers to be able to buy inputs on credit. So we're doing a number of other different things in Uganda compared to other regions. But of course, the idea, we want to leverage those new operations in these countries to be able to expand operations as well.
If you have any message to the people in Uganda, like people like yourself, who are currently working for Makerere in the past, or like in your past, working for Makerere, or working for the government, or working for the private sector, wherever in Uganda, if you have a message to them, the younger generation who are thinking agri-tech, agriculture and ICT, if they want to challenge that kind of the blue ocean field, do you have any good message for them?
I really want to, I think one thing I really wanted to mention is that there are so many people out there that have very good ideas. But until you act on that idea, until you do something about it, it won't come into anything. So you basically need to, to come, you need basically to be able to turn that idea into something. instead of having it and sitting on it. There are so many young people that have nice, basically maybe systems and applications and ideas, definitely. But if you don't take basically a step further to develop that in a product, be able to promote it, be able to go out there and basically do something about it, it won't turn into anything. So that's one of the things. And I think the last one is that I want basically people here in Uganda to look at every challenge as an opportunity. Basically, we face so many challenges in African agriculture. We're not even close to where we want to be. Okay, so I really, I want to encourage more young people to be more innovative. Look at the surrounding communities and see the challenges around them, and turn those basically into ideas and basic opportunities instead of lamenting about them. So that's my message, to them.
All right, thanks very much. So Daniel, last question from myself. So if you have another message to the younger generation in your country or even in your other countries in your region who are actually willing to study abroad, especially in Japan in the future. Of course, currently the situation of COVID-19 is prohibiting or is a challenge to come to Japan. But once the situation becomes better, do you have any message to younger generation who are willing to come to Japan or who are willing to study abroad in Japan?
Well, definitely. I mean, I just want to mention that Japan is one of the most friendliest countries I've ever been to, really. The people are respectful. I mean, I love the culture, I love the environment. And if there's actually anyone that wants to explore their potential in technology, basically, I think Japan is one of the top destinations. And so I basically want to encourage people out there that there's a lot to learn from Japan. Definitely in terms of technology, it's one of the top, it's one of the best in technology across the world. And so there's a lot to explore there, and there's a lot to learn from Japan. So I really want young people to explore these opportunities, to take advantage of these existing opportunities basically that are being offered by the Japanese people basically and their government, to be able to go there and learn and change their mindset. Because when you go out there, you basically expand your perspective. You learn things, you see things differently. You see how people do things, and perhaps you can borrow ideas from them and be able to implement them where you come from. So I want to wish them basically to encourage them to explore opportunities in Japan, because Japan has a lot to offer. Not even in terms of technology, but the people, the culture, everything is friendly, and I would basically want anyone to be able to travel there.
はい、いかがだったでしょうか。ダニエル・ニシーマさん、非常にですね、アフリカ、ウガンダ、東アフリカの大国のウガンダで農業がどういう状況なのか、もしくはですね、彼がアフリカの起業家としてどういうところに今、課題があり、どうチャレンジしていて、これからどういうふうに考えているのか。今回はですね、非常に短い時間のインタビューで非常にはしょっている部分はあるんですけども、お分かりになっていただけたんじゃないかと思います。もちろんM-Omulimisaの、詳しい内容についてこのチャンネルでもう少し、解説したいと思ってるんですが、なかなかまだ企業秘密もあったりしてここでは完全に公開できないんですけども、まだダニエルさんとはですね、今後も私、いろいろなところでですね、お会いする機会もあるので、このダニエルさんのM-Omulimisaスーパーアプリに関してはですね、こうご期待いただければと思います。今回の動画がですね、面白いなと思ったらいいねボタン、それからこのチャンネルを気に入っていただけたらですね、ぜひチャンネル登録の方もよろしくお願いいたします。はい、今後もですね、皆様のお役に立つような情報、レアな情報、貴重な情報、そして役に立つ情報をですね、お届けしたいと思ってますので、ぜひ楽しみにしていただければと思います。ありがとうございました。